more land we have locked up, the more practices we have changed with on how we manage our crops and our production is actually lifting our viability and the economics of the whole farm overall.
I think Garry's place is the perfect example of sustainable land management balanced with unbelievable production. He has potatoes galore.
It's a really funny thing how these things evolve, and it's not until you get older and look back that you can actually put these things in perspective and put a time frame to it. And my earliest recollection was when I was only a very young boy planting trees with my grandfather. And he said to me, I sort of said to him, "Pop, what are we doing this for? We've got heaps of trees here." And he said, "Garry," he said, "when I'm gone," he said, "you'll always drive past these trees and remember me." One of his greatest loves and dreams was he always wanted to have some yellow box trees on the farm. And you can see one here now that's established. And I planted some of those trees 9 times before we got them to survive.
He's got the most beautiful intact stands of native vegetation, forests and woodlands and wetlands. He has no erosion. There's hardly a weed on the place. Yeah, I've never seen such a resilient landscape, and he has the ability of being able to put that into words that other farmers will listen to.
We come into these areas that have been part of our conservation blocks, and you can see here there's a lot of natural debris on the ground from snowfalls and different events. And normally in years gone by we would have rushed in and cleaned these up and made it look pretty and tidy. But what we've come to learn, and in conjunction with IPM and integrated pest management and other parts of our cropping, is how vital this debris and timber is to the bugs and the beetles and all the little insects that rely on this to live in. And by getting that balance back in the biodiversity, the insect population, we've been able to do much more control through our potato crops without the introduction of insecticides and fungicides and things like that, because we can now let the beneficial insects do the work against the ones that cause us issues.
Like, I'm looking at the ground layer and it's like 100% native. It's like you've got microlina, weeping grasses, and you've got this scleranthus. This is a native bracken fern. I found a native bidgie-widgie just a minute ago. Just driving around your property, you can see how it is possible to have productivity and also conservation in a really good balance. You've planned your property in such a way that you do have your cleared areas where you might have your sheep or your definite designated potato growing areas, totally surrounded by these recovering ecosystems of forested areas and areas that probably always were forested.
Yeah,
so you've got both.
Yeah, and that's the thing, and I think you touched on the one word, Leslie, there was planning. The first thing you've got to do is actually know what you want to achieve and then put the steps into place. And to do that, you have to have a plan, and for us, we started with aerial mapping and then doing overlays. I was fortunate enough to do a planning and property course through the LLS many years ago. And still today, I go back to that original
I
area
totally
photo,
believe
the overlays
in
of where we
the
laid.
concept behind Land for Wildlife. It's more about restoring the landscape and reconnecting the landscape, but balancing that with production. So in a realistic world, we need to have room for both. We need to have areas for production, and we need to have conservation areas if we ever want to see some of our species into the future. And if you can bring both of them together in the way that Garry has, with really good property planning, and his landscape forms really important links through the whole region. And even within his property, he's got mosaics of woodlands with paddocks in between. And the best thing about that is he's also sheltering his sheep when they're lambing, and he's sheltering his potato crops, so he's slowing the wind factor down. He's slowing and minimising the water loss from the landscape. He's managing to have both just by the way he's planned his property. So I just think this is perfectly in line with what Land for Wildlife is all about.
Conservation, productive farming and then, highly intensive farming can work hand in hand. Every year that goes past can make such a difference. As we've gone around the property and you'll see examples of it today, a lot of these things are only 5 to 10 years old and they've made massive changes to our farm operation.
I think 50-50. If you can have 50% for nature and 50% for production, we can move into a resilient future with some of our species left to look at.
When your farm is healthy, your crops are healthy, your plants are healthy, you are healthy as a person also. Everything to do with agriculture has upturns and downturns. We have droughts, we have floods, we have weather events. But if you learn to be part of that and work with it and let nature work with you, it puts you at a place of peace within yourself, and it makes you a better person all around. And also, as your farm becomes more resilient, so do you as a person.